Hey everyone, this is Teal Time with Hope. I am Hope, and I am happy to be here today with a guest that is not just somebody I know professionally, but somebody that I like to think of as a friend. So, welcome, Kelly, to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, me too, Kelly. Me too. I've been excited since the first moment I talked to you about it when we were at the hospital. And I was like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Would you be my guest?
Of course, of course.
And you're like, "No, no, you were great." And I wanted to have you on, Kelly, specifically because, I mean, yes, of course, you're special and you rock, but because of what you do in the medical field, specifically with oncology. And to let the listeners know real quick, a couple of things. There might be static. We did some test runs and things were better with no echo in the background, like it was with dear lovely Kim that tried to interview and didn't, unfortunately, wasn't able to upload it and publish it. So the echo is kind of gone for the most part. And the second thing, there's going to be some static, possibly. So if that's the worst we can deal with, then that's okay with me. I hope it will be okay with you, of course, Kelly.
I'm fine with it.
And I didn't pay her to say that, y'all. So, well, not yet. No, but everybody, this woman right here, her name it's Kelly Logan, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Kelly Logan is well, Kelly, tell me about yourself. I'm not going to tell them about you. Please introduce yourself.
So I am Kelly Logan. I am a nurse who graduated from Tarrant County College nursing program in 2008. My first job was at St. Paul Hospital at UT Southwestern over in the medical surgical oncology floor. I quickly met some of the most amazing doctors that I've had the pleasure to know and went to go work outpatient. And I've been there since 2011 in our gynonc clinic. And I love it.
And I love that you're there because it's very interesting. I just now caught on to that your first year there was my first year in the journey of ovarian cancer. And I didn't know that that was your first year because you seemed like you were a veteran already in the in the medical profession, and I say that wholeheartedly because you were the first one of the first nurses that I came across at UT Southwest because you worked with Dr. Richardson, and she was amazing. So not a surprise that anybody that worked with her would be amazing as well. And that's another reason why I'm so fond of you, and I'm so grateful to still be here to kind of brag about you because I and y'all, I told her this in a text. I said, "You are great. You have a great, optimistic, positive, humorous personality. And when you're going through something as horrible as cancer and being diagnosed with something that could very well kill you, it's refreshing to have a nurse that has that kind of upbeat personality." And Kelly, and I do mean that. And I've said it, I've thought it, and I'm happy to still be able to say that about you.
Well, thank you. I feel honored, and every day that I go to work, I my job is truly an honor that people choose us to care for them in one of their most vulnerable moments. So we try to make, the horrible time as good as it can, and hopefully I can help people through, like I said, the worst, probably one of the worst times in their lives. So
And you do. I can attest to that. From the 2011 introduction in the worst kind of way, to be introduced to such an amazing person and amazing staff and amazing things that UT Southwest does. And to give a little background, I'm a veteran and I was seen at the VA, but because, of course, I'm a female and there are more men than there are women in the military and as veterans, the VA wasn't able to take care of me in the best way. So they gave me over to UT Southwest and said, "Here, take our money and take care of her." And that was the best thing ever that could have happened. I think that is what I say contributes to me. One of the reasons why I'm still here is because of the service that I got at UT Southwest. And I can say that people who go into oncology, nursing in general is amazing, but I think those who go into your field, it's a special. They're even more special in my opinion, and I think there's anybody out there that's been a patient would probably concur with that. And that brings me to the question, what made you want to go into the field of oncology specifically?
So that's kind of a funny story. When I was in nursing school, my least favorite rotation was our oncology rotation.
Hmm.
I didn't think that there was any way I could ever do it. I thought I wanted to be an OR nurse and go and work in surgery and, take care of patients that were asleep. Um, I thought that would be amazing. And so when I interviewed at UT, they told me that it was like an 18-month long internship program and I had to sign a contract. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. And the recruiter was like, we have this amazing unit and the manager is awesome. And I ended up on 3 South and had a great manager who, and a great team that encouraged me and fostered me. And I found that I absolutely loved oncology. So I think we end up where we're supposed to be. And even though it wasn't what I thought was good for me or good for my career, it ended up being amazing.
That is quite interesting and funny because it was the last thing that you were kind of looking to do. I mean, as far as like that section. And did you think it was going to be, and then there you ended up being in there and you're still there. Did you think it was going to be hard on the heart initially? Is that one of the reasons maybe you didn't want to go into it?
I did. It was I've been fortunate in my life. I knew I didn't want to do cardiology because my dad had died of a heart attack, so I had a mental block towards that. But I had been very fortunate through my life and cancer had not affected me. So I really didn't know how to, if I even wanted to deal with it. It wasn't something that I ever really thought about. And then I ended up there. So
And I'm so grateful you did. And I know I can't for sure definitively say this as a fact, but I would like to think that there are a lot of people that have gone in and out of that facility who are grateful that that you went into oncology, because I can't stress this enough, Kelly, and in the audience. I have gone through this 3 times, and I've seen a lot of nurses, of course, right, that have come and gone in my and not just in America. You know, I was a teacher in Saudi Arabia, so I've come around, come across a lot of nurses, and I pay attention, not just because my degree is psychology. I'm not always psychoanalyzing everybody. Maybe, not always, maybe, but I do observe, the way, we are treated as patients. And I'm not expecting, uh, 4-course meals and manicures and pedicures, things of that. I don't want any of that. I just want to be treated as as a human, right? To be treated the way you would treat people. And I've come across a lot of nurses, Kelly. And in this journey, there are a lot of nurses who don't really show that passion and love for what they do, and I'm sure it gets to be daunting. I can't imagine day in, day out for all these years that you've been in oncology and it doesn't become something that could turn you into a cold person. I could see how that could affect you negatively. I've seen nurses in the oncology department at the VA who I'm like, "Why are you here? If you don't wanna see it, if it's too hard for you to see people and then you end up finding out they died." I think that's hard. Is that something that was ever hard for you that has ever, I mean, to know you meet these people and you build a rapport and then you know that they might die or they did die, and how do you cope with that as a nurse?
it's it is hard. I I feel I think I feel every patient that we lose. To know that again, I think the bright side of it is that, we're I feel honored that they chose us to care for them. And if we could make even one day a little bit better, then that's success because that's what we're there for.
Mhm.
I mean, we're not going to save everybody.
Sure.
That was part of the reason why I had to get out of inpatient nursing because I needed to know that people lived normal lives. Because when
Mm,
you're in the hospital, everybody is sick.
mhm.
You don't go and stay in the hospital because you feel good and you're living your normal life and you have a job and you have a family, and that's when it's at its worst. And so being outpatient is, I think, a lot better because we routinely see our patients, some every 3 weeks, some every 3 months, some every 6 months,
Mhm.
some even every year, because they get to that point in their survivorship that it's it's awesome.
Right. I hope to be there in the near future. I'm at the 6-month part, but, um, 2 more years and I'll be there, and that's my prayer and my hope. But yeah, I could see how that could become, very hard to deal with seeing it every day and the the trying to compartmentalize, if you will, and try not to let it get to you, but at the end of the day, remembering, you are human and you have to be honest with your your mental state of being as well, because that's something that I think that a lot of people don't realize is important is you're taking care of us, but you need to be taken care of as well. And you got to take care of your mental health. And if it becomes too hard, too daunting, um, it's going to take away from like what you do as your job. I would think eventually, you could end up being burnt out as well. And I'm sure there are nurses who do. And I would rather you get out than to be in it. From my perspective as a patient, Kelly, I'd rather you get out and do something else that's good for you versus staying in and then the patient's having to see that you aren't happy with what you aren't happy in that job. And because it would reflect on the patients, I would think. And going back to the VA, there was a nurse who never smiled. She never smiled. She never really talked to any of us. And I always kind of like, compared to all the other nurses, and I'm not saying you have to be a ray of sunshine all the time, but when you're dealing with people who could literally die any day if this treatment doesn't work, and it's like the least you can do is smile, you know? Am I wrong in thinking that? I don't know, from your perspective as a nurse?
No, I don't think so at all. And I never had any kids, but I would imagine it's kind of like your kids. You put on the brave face, and we all have our moments,
Sure.
but we also, as a nurse, I chose a career and a profession to serve people, and to care for others, and I take time to care for myself
Of course.
sometimes. But, when I'm at work and I'm taking care of people, that's not the time to think about me. This
Mm,
in that moment, it's not about me. It's about the person sitting in front of me who needs me, who needs my education, my compassion, my empathy, um, and somebody to take care of them.
right. And that's exactly how I feel like it should be. And again, I'm not saying you should like, "Hope, how are you today? Oh my god, you look good. You look beautiful. You look this, you look that. You look blah blah blah." I don't need you to kiss my butt. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think patients aren't wanting that. We're facing a scary time. We're facing the unknown, and it's just you can feel it, right? There's that vibe, right? What's it called? Bedside manner, right?
Mhm.
And some doctors have it, some don't, and some nurses have it, and some don't. And going to Saudi Arabia, I taught for 1 year medical personnel, how to better their English as well as how to better their customer care service. Because at the end of the day, we are customers, we're not just patients, right? Because everything is a business. But I would tell them, I was
Mhm.
like, "It's not about treating us like gold." Like, and patients can be unruly, patients can be scared, patients can be angry, patients can be sad. And so it's trying to keep all of that in thinking about that holistic view of, okay, and they don't have the right to yell at you just because 'cause they're the patient. I don't believe that either. It's just trying to make sure that you realize that they're there because they don't wanna be there. We're there because we don't wanna be there. We're there to hopefully keep surviving. And when we walk in, from the moment we walk in, it's nice when people say, "Hi, how are you? How can I help you?" And then you go up to your department and you check in, and it just it's everywhere, and I'm a panel or committee member on the Patient Family Advisory Council at UT Southwest. I don't know if I think I told you that. I think
Mhm.
you already know that. And I only say that because, they ask for the perspective of the patient. Like, what can we do to make it better? And Kelly, I have to say, and there's no lie there, there's not much that I would say that you need to do to make it better. And it's not a commercial, it's not an ad. This isn't an advert for UT Southwest. We'll talk about UT Southwest because that's where you work and that's where my experience has been. But they really are a great institution. They really are well known. You could just Google UT Southwest and you would find that out. So I don't it's not about talking them up. It's the truth. And I've had such an amazing experience there. And I'm so glad that you are a part of that. Other nurses are part of that. Dr. Richardson was a part of that. Now she's doing great things over in Oklahoma. And Dr. Lococo was a part of that. And it's all people that I've ran into, except for that one person in anesthesia. Just kidding, guys. I'm just kidding. Everybody has been great. They knocked me out. I don't know what that was about. Just kidding. But it is such a hard, being told you have cancer and then being told that you're gonna have to do X, Y, Z, and it is daunting, it is scary, it is fear put a fear in you, and then you go in and you see these nurses, and you are a prime example because you're the best example because that's who I've had most experience with since one I mean, every time I see you, Kelly, literally, I'm like, "She was the nurse I've been with since 2011." It is so comforting, and I think that's the word. It's comforting to know there are people out there like you, and this isn't about guys, this isn't about, "Oh, let me just, bow down to Kelly Logan." Although I wouldn't bow down to you, but I definitely would share my cookie with you because you're just that awesome. You're just that awesome. And going back to some of the question I wanted to ask, what are some of the things that you have seen? Because I think it's important as a nurse and specifically in oncology, and you've worked with all. Is it correct to say that you work with every type of cancer that comes into UT Southwest?
So actually, I only work with GYN cancers.
Yes. Sorry.
So
Yes.
yeah, I work with all of the GYN cancers. So we've seen, we see uterine cancer and ovary cancer and cervical cancer, vaginal, vulvar, and primary peritoneal, which is someone who develops an ovary type cancer. And it behaves like ovary cancer, but they didn't have any ovaries. So
Interesting. What would you say is the one of the highest percentages of gynecological cancers that come into your facility
oh God.
offhand? Yeah.
Um, Off the top of my head, I think in our clinic, we probably see the most uterine cancer and ovary cancer. And I don't know percentages in the grand scheme of cancer. Gynecologic cancers are actually very rare. There's a lot more breast and lung and colon cancers, but I feel like it's very prominent because that's what I see every day.
Sure.
But typically it's uterine cancer and ovary cancer is the majority of our patients.
Okay. And was there anything in all of your experience? Has there been anything like? Have you seen an uptick of it? Have you seen it go? Kind of like stay at a certain place, or is it lower? Like in your, I know we're not talking statistics. It's not about that. It's like in your experience. Have you seen more of it, less of it, or the same in the 12, 13 years you've been in this field?
Um Honestly, I don't know if it's more or if because we've become busier,
Mm,
there's more. Um, so I feel like we see more and more patients,
okay.
but it may just be because I don't know, we have more billboards now.
Yes, I mean you actually have a whole new building too.
Yes.
You have a UT Southwest just opened up its, new cancer center, right? Like you went from a smaller facility to a bigger one now. And so of course that's going to open up more charts, more rooms, more everything. But there's no short supply, I would think. I mean, they're all being full, right? They're all being filled. The people are coming. There's not like nobody coming. It's not like, and I guess that was my question. Do you feel like you've grown? right? You're in a bigger place now. Do you feel like there's just still women coming in and coming in and coming in?
Yes,
Okay.
and I think a lot of it has to do primarily with earlier detection.
Okay.
I think women are encouraged more now to pay attention to their bodies and not to take no for an answer. I think a lot of times, unfortunately, with some of our cancers, that the symptoms are very vague, and so a lot of times they were blown off or missed. And now I think with education and things, I guess the internet being out there and you can look things up and it's okay to be like, no, something's wrong.
That's a good
Um,
point.
so I think we're lucky because some of it, we're still not catching it early enough, but some of it we are catching it earlier. So that has, I think, better outcomes.
Yes, it's
But
improved, right.
I don't know 100%, so
Of course, and nobody's
don't hold
by the
me to
way, yeah,
that.
nobody in the audience, please hold what Kelly has just claimed, like, don't go out and fact check her and say, "No, you lied." No, she's not lying, she's just going off of her experience. Let's make sure we put that out there,
Thank
and,
you for that disclaimer.
of yes, of course, because today we have to just be careful so nobody runs with that information and says whatever. Um, and seriously, I think that's important that you said, you said something that was really important. Women not accepting no, right? Women listening to their bodies more so we can get early diagnosis rather than what you had been seeing. And I guess that would be my next question. And by the way, it's not just about Google searches. I have to put a little, plug in for the advocacy that's being done as well with Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, with the National Ovarian Cancer Alliance coalition here in Dallas, headquarters there. There are a lot of women, a lot of amazing women and men with them that are doing amazing things with trying their best to get that advocacy out there and let women know what this ugly disease is, what are the symptoms, and exactly your point. Don't accept no. And could you elaborate on that when you say don't accept no from a doctor? Like, in what way do you mean?
So if you start to notice something different with your body, bloating, not you had some bean burritos and you don't feel good, but things that just don't go away. You're gaining weight or losing weight, that's unexplained. Um, and this is persisting. I mean, don't let it go on for 6 or 9 or 12 months, but over the course of a few weeks or even a couple of months, if something's different, go to your doctor, go to your GYN or your primary care doctor and get it checked out, and then advocate for, imaging if it's indicated, or a physical exam, because we've had young women who have come in and who have been trying to get someone to listen to them, and they chalked their symptoms up to, oh, it's constipation, or you know you need to go on a gluten-free diet, and it's not always that. Sometimes
Right.
it is.
Yeah.
And in ovary cancer, again, is a pretty rare in the scheme of cancers, but let's make sure that it's not something we need to be concerned about before we just assume that because you're in your 20s, oh, 20-year-olds don't get cancer.
Mhm.
Sometimes they do.
Yes. More and more now. There was an article, I can't recall. I'll have to find the article and hopefully I'll find it and put in the details of this episode. But there was something I was reading about younger people, millennials, more getting diagnosed with cancers. And yeah, in the grand scheme of it, yeah, ovarian cancer isn't as common, but there are 20-year-olds who have gotten it. I actually know a survivor out in Wisconsin, and she was in her 20s when she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. There are even groups, I believe, because people thought I was younger, so they wanted me to be in their young survivor group, and I'm like, oh well, thank you, but I don't think I fit in that category, but I'll take your compliment. But they were all under the age of 30, I think, or 40, 'Cause I was diagnosed at 40, and that's not very common because that's kind of young, right? Of course, to be 40 and with when I read the statistics on it. But there are women that are under 40 that are being diagnosed and some in their 20s. So to say just, that belief that, "Oh, young people don't get ovarian cancer, young people don't get cancer, period," is something we need to definitely stop saying and get away from it. And I like what you said, that it could be constipation. It could be that you ate too much yogurt or whatever, and you're just having an irritable bowel syndrome, or you're lactose intolerant. But you know what? It could be something more. And if you don't
Mm-hmm.
talk to the doctor, and we say in the advocacy world of ovarian cancer, we say 2 weeks, 2 weeks to 3 weeks. If the symptoms continue to persist, you get checked out and don't put it off. And you said don't wait 6 months to a year. Well, that's exactly what I did. I mean, Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Richardson believed I had it for 6 months. And then you remember, I went there, I looked 9 months pregnant, my mom. I thought 7. I don't know about 9, Kelly, but 7. Um, and she was like, "Hope you," and I had 8 liters of fluid. And I kid
Mm-hmm.
with people. I do. I use this all the time. Don't be like Hope. Don't be a dope. You know, I'm like, and I only say that in the context of how I was with that. Do not follow my example when it came to getting checked because of fear and because of misinformation, or really of not knowing what to look out for. That's why this is a pod. That's why I have this podcast. That's why I pass on symptom cards. That's why we need to talk about it more, because it isn't as big as breast cancer or some of the other ones out there, but it's still worth talking about. And
Mm-hmm.
and it's still worth telling the doctor, "Hey, you may think it's this, but I'm not a doctor, but I know my body. I
Mm-hmm.
know my body is not right. Something is wrong." And what are I think the 2 tests are, it's like ultra a pelvic exam and, an ultrasound pelvic exam or something like that. Kelly, was it? It's just slipping from my mind right now, but, um,
So we do pelvic ultrasounds,
yes.
and that is typically an ultrasound on the top, like they do when you're pregnant and having a baby, but they look at the uterus and the ovaries and the fallopian tubes, and they can see, inside the pelvis. And then with that, they will do a transvaginal approach as well, because that's the only way to see behind the bladder.
Mm,
And so awesome, but it's a vaginal probe that goes in so that they can see all the way through the pelvis
okay. Yeah, I think that's
to
what I
see if there's
remember.
anything abnormal.
Alright. And then the CA-125 is an extra one. None of by the way, neither of them are, 100% used as screening, because that we still don't have a valid screening, because things can be not accurate. It doesn't mean it's cancer, and I think that's one of the big reasons we don't necessarily say we have a screening yet.
Mhm.
Right. Um, one question I did wanna ask, and I this goes back to people coming in with early diagnosis. In your 12 to 13 years in this area, or so, have you seen a decrease of higher women coming in there with a later diagnosis? Have you seen more that are coming in with earlier diagnosis? Is that something you've seen?
Unfortunately, we still typically see patients with ovary cancer when it's a stage 3 or 4.
Oh, that is
Because that is unfortunately when, for the majority of cases, that's when the symptoms start presenting.
okay. So that's the unfortunate part, but that's also the thing that encourages me to keep talking about it. That keeps me motivated to have that passion to continue to do this awareness, have this awareness, and be grateful for people that are doing their part all over America and all over the world with getting getting those symptoms out to women. If we have to, say it louder, if we have to say it more and more again, to the point where, like, okay, if I go get checked, will you stop talking about it? I will be okay with that. Will you stop?
Right?
Because if that's what it takes, it's what it takes. And I think that's okay. I don't want to scare anybody, but I don't want anybody to go through what I went through. I don't want
Mhm.
any as much as I like you and as much as I appreciate you and I give put my hands together to give you the heart that you can't see because this is just audio, uh, I wish I never met you, if that
I
makes sense.
No, it 100% does, and I would love to have a day when I was out of a job.
Mm,
And not just because I would love to be a stay-at-home wife, but because I would love for there not to be a need for cancer care and cancer treatment. I mean, if we ever in anyone's lifetime could do that, that would be amazing to me.
I love that. Yeah. I wish that we could live in a world where there was no need for what we have right now. And until that time comes, there are places like UT Southwest that are not just taking care of patients, but are also behind the scenes with their research and things of that nature. And that's what gives me hope that that day will one day come, even if it's far after us in our time here on this planet. It would be great if it was before we left this planet, but I don't know if that's going to happen in the next 50 years. And it could because UT Southwest is doing amazing things, and in the research area, and there are things coming down the pipe for possible, cures to different various cancers. And I don't realistically think there's going to be one cure for all because cancers, as of course are very different in that. Um, but we can hope, right? We
Yeah,
can hope, and
absolutely.
if that
And
means,
that's
sorry,
sorry.
no, yeah, continue.
No, that's one thing that through my last 12, 13 years, to see new drugs being developed and to see new treatments that are out there and available, it's it's exciting. I mean, I find it to be exciting that we have new drugs that I have to learn about because we have more treatment options. And when you work with, great teams of people that have amazing experience, we still have old drugs that, we can rely on, and we have new drugs that are coming out, and the advances in symptom management from treatment and things like that is I think we're 100% headed in the right direction.
That's
It's
great.
exciting.
And you see it. I mean, you're a part of that world, so you get to be a little bit more you're more inside of that world, of course, so you get to hear about things and read about things that are that are coming along, and that's why I like being a part of this world as well. And this it's being a part of a club I never wanted to be a part of.
Mhm.
We just can't go back. We can't change it. So it is what it is in that sense, and I'm glad that to be a part of this world, I'm happy to this part of it is the taking something positive out of something negative. And even though I didn't want to be here, even though I didn't ask to be here, I'm here regardless. And in that, I want to be a part of the good in it, to try to not just talk about it, but to read about it, to educate myself about it, to be involved with those that are doing amazing things in their organizations as well, and to hear about these possible ways of treating it even better. I mean, have you seen, like, so there's things out there about protons? Is it protons therapy or something like that?
That's not something that we are using yet, to my knowledge. They
Mhm.
may be doing studies and things. I know certain cancers, they are having great response and great results with proton therapy. Um, it's not something that we're using. We're starting to get into the realm of immunotherapy, and sometimes that's appropriate treatments, and that's exciting because that's using your own body to fight the cancer, which is your own body gone haywire, um,
Hmm.
with
Yeah,
with less toxic side effects than traditional chemotherapy.
and that's exciting. What an interesting concept, right? To try to treat the cancer without all that toxic poison that we need
Mhm.
traditionally, because I've had 24 of those. I've had
Mhm.
24 of those not so great, not so fun pretty excruciating ways of treating cancer, and I'm still here to tell the tale, which is, of course, fantastic. But if I always tell people I'm not an advocate. I'm not a fan of traditional chemotherapy because of what it does to your body, how it hurts you, how the aftermath of the effects of chemotherapy. So to know that there are things in this country, because other countries, of course, have been doing other things, and that's another subject altogether. But right now, in our country, right now, in the medical field today with cancer treatment, it's encouraging to know that we're on the cusp of these amazing things that are we're not on the cusp, we're doing it, just not everybody
Mhm.
just yet. And it can help with not having those horrible side effects that with traditional chemotherapy bring. And so, as a nurse, I'm sure that excites you a lot as well.
It is. And also with the supportive medications that, we the anti-nausea drugs
Mm.
and things that we've realized cause some of those horrible side effects. I know back the movies that you would have watched in the 80s and the 90s, the portrayal of patients getting chemotherapy, everybody threw up their toenails every day.
Right.
And with the advancement of, supportive drugs, and we realized that, okay, so you may get a little nauseated or lose your appetite, but really the people that are going to get super sick and throw up a lot, there's probably a mechanical reason in your intestines that that's happening. It's not the side effect of the chemo. So, I mean, I can say that from a nursing perspective. You've been through it, so you may be like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about, but
No, 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 no. You're absolutely no, no, no. I am not disagreeing whatsoever because I can. Yeah, I mean, there was one time out of 24 treatments. That's saying a lot. There was one time that I threw up and I thought I am going to die because of the amount of pain that was happening while I was vomiting. And that was a very intense treatment of chemo, right? It was IP chemo that
mhm,
doctors don't really, like Dr. Lococo didn't even want to have me go there because I'd already had it in 2012 and I was only able to do 3 of the 6 treatments because it was just so hard on my body. And when I threw up, I thought that's what took my brain back. It's funny you say that because that's what a lot of people, I'm sure, think. They think of the movies of the 80s and the 90s, and on top of the loss of hair, on top of the weight loss, the vomiting, just continuous of vomiting, and it scared me. That's why I initially wasn't wanting to do chemo, but yet I did chemo, and that one time out of 24 treatments says a lot.
mhm,
So, and the nausea, you're absolutely right that they told me that, even I think it was Dr. Richardson said that, medicine has come a long way. And I didn't have, as long as I took that medicine, and I think that's the key, is if you don't wait until you get nauseated, right? Take that medication. That's what I did. I just took it as prescribed. I didn't want to even feel nauseated. And I just took it. And I think it was the second round in 2019, I remember I just finished some treatment and I was out driving because I know, people are like, "What? You were driving for Uber and you were going through treatment?" But I'm just weird like that. And I was like, I had to get out and not think about what was going on with my life. And it really was, it was really good for me when I was able to get out there. And so one night I was feeling nauseated. I had that nauseous feeling and I called my mom and, of course, I talked to her about it, and she said, "Get you some 7 Up and some crackers." And I got some 7 Up and I got some crackers, and I took that medication religiously because it really did make a huge difference. And if I can say that after going through cancer 3 times and doing chemotherapy 24 times, that and that says a lot. And so, yes, you're
mhm,
absolutely correct. It's come a long way than from what we used to see. And I think that's a big thing that people get scared, right? They don't want to do chemo because of all the things they've seen and all the things they've heard and in the nightmares that people described what chemo was. It doesn't mean it's
mhm.
great. Of course, we're not saying, "Oh yeah, it's, it's awesome. Why are people complaining?" No, it's still bad. but just a little less bad, maybe is the best way to describe it. And from the nurse's perspective and the person who went through it a lot of times. And so that's reassuring. And if we can get further from the traditional, like you said, what is it, was it immune therapy?
Immunotherapy.
Immunotherapy. Then that is even, man, even better until we can find the cure, until we can prevent it, until we can stop it from ever happening. We have to look at what we have now and how we can make it better. Um, I agree with that. I'm glad you brought that up. So for people that are out there who might be, just worried about their loved one or worried about, themselves who are going through it. And it did scare me, Kelly. I wrote that in
Mm,
my book. I initially wasn't going to do chemo because of my fear of what it's going to do to my body. And I'm so glad that I didn't do what I was initially going to. And I had a friend that cried on the phone with me, and she's like, because she thought I was going to die. She's like, "Hope, I've read on this cancer. This is a horrible cancer, and I'm scared for you. But I'll respect your decision either way." Because at the end of the day, it's the person going through it that has to make that decision, what is best for them, even if nobody agrees with it. And have you ever seen that where people just go in and say, "Okay, well, thank you and bye"?
yeah. And I completely respect that.
Hmm.
If that was my mom that turned to me and said that, I would tell her no, she doesn't have a say so. But our patients that come in, no, and that's what I love and appreciate about our team, because I've heard stories of people who maybe they didn't want to do exactly what, the doctor recommended, but the doctor didn't have an open dialogue with them.
Mm,
And I think that's where the nursing care is really important, because we need to be too the advocate for the patient in advocating for the patient and providing education so that they're making an informed choice.
right. I agree
I
with that.
I don't ever want someone to make a choice about, treatment or no treatment based on fear, or lack of education. So we do our best to provide all of the information. Sometimes it is way overwhelming. I can only imagine. Um, but we respect that for patients, and I've sat and cried with patients,
Mm,
and we still continue to follow them and support whatever decision that they make.
absolutely.
It is the patient's decision. It's not the doctor's decision. It's not the nurse's decision. And it's not even, I'm going to contradict myself in what I just said about my own mother, but it's not the family's decision.
Mm.
It is the patient's decision, and what is best for them.
Right, and I'm thank you for doing that, because that is something that we have to deal with when we're diagnosed. You're being torn every direction. Being told what you should do, what you should not do. God rest my mom's soul. She would tell me not to do chemo because she saw her mother. Guess what? In 1970, 1971, my grandmother was going through breast cancer. That was a whole different world back then. She was
Mhm.
going through some horrible, horrible stuff, and she saw what the radiation did to her mother. She saw what the chemo did to her mother, and her mother did eventually die because of breast cancer. So in her mind, she's thinking the same for what's going to happen to her daughter. And so she was scared for me, and she didn't want me to go through what her mother went through. But that was, what, 40 years before. And
Mhm.
like Dr. Richardson said, medicine's come a long way. And so I had to be okay. I love my mother, and she's telling me this. And then I have friends. I had one that literally said, "Hope, it would be stupid not to do chemo. People can't afford they can't even afford it. And you are a veteran, and they are taking care of you, and they are paying for it. So it almost kind of be stupid not to do it." And she wasn't saying I would be stupid, but of course I understood what she was saying. So, but I'm being told in different by different people that I care about, that love me, what I should do, what I shouldn't do. And at the end of the day,
Mhm.
and that's not even the medical staff. I mean, the VA doctor was like, "There's no cure to this." but we will respect your decision. And here's a bunch of Vicodin. Good luck, you know. I mean, back in 2011, girl, they gave me a lot of Vicodin, and thank God I had no, addictive personality, because that was way because they this well, like, you're going to be in a lot of pain, girl. So here's a lot of pain medicine to help you through this because you're choosing not to do chemo, and it is probably not what we want you to do, and we want you to think about it. We want you to rethink about it. We hope you make a different decision. They even brought down his boss, his director, to come talk to me, I believe, to say, "Hey, there's no cure to this. This is ovarian cancer, and it's late stage ovarian cancer. There is, at least try to give your chance of survival, shot, if you will." And I still was against it because I was scared. I was scared and I was fearful. And I'm being told by my mom, "Don't do it." I'm being told my friends, "You'd be stupid if you don't do it." And at the end of the day, it is my choice. But I want to make that in a smart way, right? Like you said, I want to be educated with that choice. I don't want to be ruled off of fear. And ultimately, it was still fear that made me decide to do it, which is the interesting thing because I started to bloat and that ascites returned. And I ended up getting 4 liters of ascites back after the surgery. And that was that was my cue. I feel like God was saying, "Hey, you need to do this chemo." And that's kind of how it really was. It was a little bit of fear that brought me back to reality to say, "Oh, I got to do this, and mom's not going to like it, and I've got to be okay with that. I've got to be okay with her saying I don't approve of this, and I wish you wouldn't do it, but I had to do what was best for Hope." And so,
Mhm.
and that's all that matters. You got to do best what is best for you, even if your family doesn't like it. Because there's a lot of, naysayers. Chemo sucks. Chemo's going to kill you. Chemo's what kills you. And yes, there are people who have had it and have died. Let's just be honest, because it didn't work. But chemo doesn't cure me either. And I think that's the thing I tell people. It's not the cure. Chemo just keeps me alive longer. Is that a correct
Mhm.
statement?
Yes.
And why it worked?
There
Yeah.
there's instances where in certain diseases where chemotherapy can be curative. Um,
Okay.
but typically the way that I have been taught that we approach cancer now is more it's like hypertension, high blood pressure or diabetes. It's a chronic illness that we will treat.
Right. I think that's also something you told me about. I think there was something I read about that and how it's become a chronic illness. And it doesn't mean I'm happy about that because that means that it might be something I have to just live with for the rest of my life of being good for 3 years, being good for 4 years, and then it comes back. And then I have to go through the whole routine again, which means putting poison back in my body and then being good again. And then being bad again, and not bad and bad, but, being sick again. And it's almost like you are just, well, bluntly living with cancer,
Hmm.
or like I say, living despite cancer. I like to words matter, girl, words matter.
They
Um,
do.
and so it is, and that's a good point you brought up. It has become chronic. It's what's becoming, like, more people are getting, but more people are living with it. But they're living with it almost as if it's a chronic disease, or it is a chronic disease. Is that how you see it? And how it's starting to be seen as?
I mean, that's how we treat it.
Okay,
I say we. I mean, that's what I've been taught, and that's what I see, and
sure.
we hopefully have long periods like you've had where, we have no disease and we see you every 6 months and say, "Hey, Hope, how's it going?"
And I'm like, "I'm rocking it, Kelly. I'm rocking it in
I
Hawaii,
know.
maybe." No, just kidding. One day, one day, one day,
One day
one day,
we're
and you'll
both
come
gonna
join
be
me
there.
and visit. Um, but yes, it is. I'm thankful. I can't express that enough because I've been told. I've in this journey that I've been on for almost 13 years, I'm not the norm. There are not a lot of Hope Aguilars who had late stage, survived for almost 7 years, and then came back, and then got it again, and then got it again. And I haven't met many of me out there. And that's not me being at all braggadocious, trust me. It's just I haven't met women that have gone through this journey like me. I've met women who have had it, and then when they got it the third time, they ended up dying. There was one last year, Sherry Pollux, who did amazing things for the advocacy for ovarian cancer because her boyfriend was part of NASCAR, and she had it, and we were almost on the same path with the having it as many times. But unfortunately, when it came back the third time, it spread to one of her other organs. And she, at the age of, she was young. She was younger. She was 42. She was when it came back the third time. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was almost, I was like really rooting for her. Of course, I'm rooting for everybody, Kelly, but it was like somebody else, like me, somebody else is surviving and somebody else is thriving and somebody else out there is, despite having it three times is kicking its arse. And then you read the news that she passed away, and it's just disheartening. It's just like because you want to see people continue to live, you want to see people continue to thrive and live a long life, but it's just statistically is not the case because it starts out with such a late diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to be incorrect. If there are women out there, please hit me up at Teal Time with hope at gmail.com or send me a message directly to this podcast because if there are, I want to meet these other women. I would love to know that there are a lot of women out there who have made it past the second time or the third time that are, that have been 12, 13 years, but I just haven't met them. I just haven't. They either get it and never get it again. And that's some of the stories I hear, because it's got caught early. And there are a few of them. I've met two Kellys. Surprise, surprise. I met two ladies. Both of them were diagnosed late stage 3C, and they have
Mm-hmm.
both been without recurrence for 20 years.
That's
And
awesome.
right. And I asked her if she'd be interested in coming on, but she's not sure if she wants to be public about her story. She's public on Facebook, but like I think talking about it would maybe be too hard for her, and I understand that and respect that. And the other woman I saw recently, and I think she was 15 years late stage, and it's been 15 years in remission with no recurrence. But that's probably the only two that I've found so far because it's just a sucky situation when it's found so late.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's the hope is that we, no pun intended, y'all. The hope is that we keep talking about it so we can get women into your clinic or whatever clinic out there, and it's early.
Mm-hmm.
What about real quick, what about women checking, um, like, knowing about their body? Do you think that there is a need, Kelly, for women to really know more about their anatomy, more about their body in order to pay attention to those little telltale signs? Is there anything that you would recommend that we do other I mean, we talked about the symptoms, of course, but, like, knowing our body as women. Is there
I I think so, and I think we should do honestly a better job is in the medical community of educating women because I think we assume that because we took anatomy and physiology and we know all of our body parts that all women do. I hear a lot of women say I can't have ovary cancer because I had a normal pap smear last year.
mm,
And unfortunately, the pap smear looks for cervical cancer, not ovary cancer. And so that's, I think, yes, as girls, I think, growing up in the 70s, 80s, we didn't talk about our bodies.
right.
We didn't talk about our bodily functions. And it, not having children, maybe it's getting better. But I would encourage women to learn about their bodies and their body functions and how your body works and what it's supposed to do and not supposed to do.
And what would be your recommendation? Just like maybe some Google searches, some YouTube videos? Like, I mean, what would be I don't know, what would be one of the ways to go about doing that?
As an adult, I think, Google searches and things just to learn about the difference in your ovaries and fallopian tubes and just how it works and even to I think there's probably videos and education out there.
Mm,
I always recommend that our patients go, to, of course, our website, but any of the universities or the university sponsored cancer centers, because there's always a lot of good, legitimate educational resources. There's a lot of junk out on the internet, so you do have to be careful.
sure.
But
What would be
any,
your, sorry about that, but, as far
yeah.
because you are from UT Southwest, is it just
Mhm.
simply utsouthwest.com or edu? Like, if just to put that out there, because 'cause I'll put it on my details as well.
See, now you're gonna put me on the spot.
Uh,
I think the public facing internet, I believe it might be .org,
yes, I think I've
but
yeah.
you search for UT Southwestern Cancer Center. I think it goes to a link to the Cancer Center, and there's a bunch of educational resources on there. Um, Not to promote I guess, other institutions, but Memorial Sloan Kettering out of New York City has great patient education. The Ohio State University in Columbus, I think they're in Columbus. Um, but Ohio State has great patient educational resources on their website that are easy to find. Because if I can find it on the website, because even though I'm not as old as my mom, I am still technologically challenged many times.
No,
Um,
that's great information, and at the end of the day, we're just promoting whatever is out there that can help the public learn more on the things that are important, such as your
in
health.
in always the National Institute for Health, so NIH.gov, I think it is. There's a wealth of information, and if you want to search for anything, I always recommend that people stay with .gov websites or
EDUs, things like that, yeah.
.edus.
Absolutely, because we didn't have that. You're not that far from my
No,
age and your mother's age. We didn't we couldn't just get online. I know for the younger audience out there, there was no internet, okay, in the '80s that the
no.
public had access to. We went to the library if we wanted to learn something
Hmm.
or talk to our grandparents or if people who have grandparents, the elderly. That was our World Wide Web, and, which isn't always accurate, I know, like the World Wide Web, but I digress. The point is, there are things now that we didn't have. There's this plethora of resources now where we don't have to be, um where we can be cognizant more than we used to be. Let's just say that. And I encourage everybody to do that, what Kelly is saying. Please educate because that's where we have to educate ourselves. We have to educate ourselves to know I'm a woman. What is this about? What are my anatomical parts? Because I didn't even know that. I mean I knew I had reproductive organs, but could I tell you what my reproductive organs are before I had ovarian cancer? I doubt it. I didn't do well in anatomy and physiology, by the way. Not that I hold a grudge, but I think that's that one class I didn't do very good at in college. And so I mean, ovaries? Really? There's an ovary? I didn't know ovary cancer was a thing because I didn't even know where my ovaries were. And so I am I'm betting there are a lot of women out there that you have come across that I'm sure of didn't know, like you said, didn't know, that ovarian cancer, people think it can be diagnosed in a pap smear, and it simply is not true. And that's another thing that we say in the advocacy of ovarian cancer awareness. Pap smears do not catch ovarian cancer.
Mhm.
And a lot of people don't. I mean, how many women even get pap smears?
And unfortunately, that's yeah. We do
Right.
have a screening tool for cervical cancer, but people still don't go to the gynecologist or even your primary care doctor. They have the same guidelines and you don't have to go to a separate doctor. Your most primary care doctors can do a well woman exam and do your pelvic exam along with a pap smear.
Very good. That's good information. And I did wanna tell you, there was a comedian, um, somebody pointed me to a TikTok video, of course, and then I watched it, but it took me to a different one, not the one that they sent. And all that to say is it was a woman, and she's a comedian on stage, and she's talking about how she was 40 before she went to a gynecologist. And she said, "Well, we didn't grow up with a lot of money, so I didn't even know there was a doctor for that area." And people are laughing, but at the same time, I'm watching it going, "You were 40
Hmm.
before you ever got to a OBGYN or a gynecologist, a gynecological doctor? Like, 40?"
Hmm.
And and I say that surprisingly, but at the same time, there are a lot of people out there who don't have medical insurance. There are a lot of
Hmm.
people out there who aren't educated, who've never been educated. So I do feel like high schools should be doing some more with getting young women and young men educated with what they need to know about their health and with their body and stuff like that. And I think it should start in high school. And the last thing I did want to ask you, because I know we've been on here for a while, and I appreciate you taking the time to converse with me on this podcast, is what do you advise? There's a couple of things as a nurse. What are some of the things that you would tell somebody about the gynecological, like, and we're talking specifically about ovarian, of course, that you've experienced other than we talked about go to the doctor, listen to your body, make sure you speak up for yourself. These are some of the things that you ask, for pelvic exams and CA-125s. But is there anything else that you would want to impart on your pearls of wisdom, if you will, in your time as a nurse to women out there?
Um, oh
Don't
gosh.
speak so fast, Kelly. Okay, please take your time, not so quickly.
And hope you've known me for a long time. I'm never without
I
anything to
know.
say.
Gotcha.
Um, I mean, I think really I wish women would advocate for themselves more. And I think women need to take care of themselves. I think most of us are programmed that we take care of everyone else first. I think it's hard for us to take care of everybody else if we end up getting sick. So we need to take care of ourselves as well. And just I don't know. I
No, I
I
mean,
think it's
mhm.
don't 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 put it off. Um, and I talk out of both sides of my face because I will be honest, I am not a good patient and I don't take my own advice, but um, just I know we always have something more important to do, but when it comes to your health and then when it comes to your body, um, you have to make that a priority.
And I
And
agree.
eating well, sleeping, self-care, taking time for yourself to take care of everybody else, you also have to take care of yourself. So that's as a woman, that sometimes is very hard to do, but that's what I would recommend.
And that's a great that's a great recommendation because, whew, yours truly didn't do any of that stuff, and it could have been very well would have ended my life, and that would be awkward because then you'd be talking to a ghost right now, and that would be hard to explain. And I guess there's one other question I forgot. When somebody is going through the process of being newly diagnosed and they're going through the system of, being told, "This is what you do, this is what," it's overwhelming. You said that earlier. There's a lot that is being told to that patient. What are some of the things that would make that process that you've seen that maybe has made it easier? How do you talk to people that are newly diagnosed? What if they don't have a caregiver? What if they're by themselves? Who would you uh, give them? What information would you give them to help them maybe with financial? And I know I'm hoping to bring a social worker on board for this podcast in an episode in the future. But if you wouldn't mind quickly, like what are some of the things that you would bring to the table, if you will, to the patient and their loved ones, regardless if they have somebody with them or not. Like I had my mother, but the second time I was kind of by myself, and the third time, my mother had passed away, and I was by myself. But I already knew the system, if you will. So what if for the
Hmm.
first diagnosed patient, what would you kind of like say to them to help them process through it? And what would you recommend? Who would you recommend them to talk to next? Or if there's anything that you would like to kind of give some advice on, if that makes sense.
Unfortunately, we see this quite often. Um, I Everybody's story, of course, is different, and everybody has different circumstances. But we see a lot of people who have minimal or no family or friend support. Um, and then all of a sudden you're facing, you can't work, or you need to take time off of work, and it is very, very daunting. My recommendation is talk to your care team and make sure that you're open and honest about the challenges, because they are there for you. And if they're not, and if you don't feel supported, you need to find a different care team, because they should be. There
Yes.
may not always be 100%, you know, we may not be able to solve everybody's financial problems, but there are a lot of resources out there that until the last 6 months, I didn't even know existed. Community resources and things, programs where people undergoing treatment and things like that can get help. And don't ever be embarrassed to ask a question. That's something that I always impart on all of my patients is, even if you think that you've asked it 3 times, you're not annoying. Do not suffer in silence. And we may not be able to help, but we might be. But if we don't know, there's nothing we can do to help if we don't know about the problem.
Mhm.
Um, and try as hard as it is to put pride aside. Nobody is judging. Um, and at least they shouldn't be. I wouldn't be judging.
Mhm.
Um, but again, if you have no one at home, like, let us know. We're there for you.
Yes,
Your care
and
team.
I can
And people
attest.
that go
Yeah.
into people that go into oncology, I mean, they should be. And that's what we're there for. So we want to help and provide whatever we can.
I love that. And nobody should go it alone. Nobody should go it alone, and I've never felt alone when I'm at UT Southwest. Um, Especially in those infusion rooms where you've got access to movies and the internet, and you've got drinks and soup, and you guys, like, treat us like serious. It's like bougie at UT Southwest, and I'm biased, yes, because they've taken care of me for 12 years, and I had 6 treatments at the VA, and I love my VA. I'll always love my VA as a veteran. They just don't do it like they do it at UT Southwest, y'all. Going from 6 treatments at the VA, with it being like a bus station, like the Union bus station in New York or something, and then going over to UT Southwest and having the social worker come in and talk to you, having the nutritionist come in and talk to you, having access to get exercise if I need exercise, and having a glass door with the lights that can go down, and you have your own little room. That makes such a big difference for somebody going through something so horrible. And so my bias is warranted. because I've seen both sides, and I'm like, "Wow, is this how the other half live?" And I am no VIP, but you feel like you're a VIP, and I think that's important to add. So thank you for that. The last question for all those in the medical field and who are nurses that work specifically with oncology, what do you, Kelly Logan, do to keep yourself in mental check despite all the things that you see in the oncology field that can be quite daunting? Is there anything that you would recommend to nurses that are in this field or want to go in this field? What do you do for your self-care other than, going to Hawaii?
Hey, I went to Hawaii one time.
I know,
Um,
and it was amazing.
it was amazing. But no, I mean everybody's different. I know nurses who run marathons and do things like that. I am absolutely not the exercise person. That would not bring me joy. Um I I personally I spend a lot of time listening to music. I'm fortunate I have a great patio setup, so I spend a lot of time even when it's 105 degrees just decompressing without the television on my patio. And unlike a lot of people, I am very very fortunate. I have the most amazing supportive husband who listens to me, although he doesn't understand a lot of what I say most of the time. But just supportive. And then I take my Saturdays and I am alone and I decompress and just I did yoga for a little while and that was great. And I don't know. I alternate between things, but
But that's important
I
because,
probably do a little too much retail therapy, but
well, we all have our vices. We all have our vices, but at the same time, it is the word therapy in there. So I like to count that as a good thing. So good, because when you were good, you were there to be good for us, the patients. And that is how I would like to end this beautiful interview with you. And I said it before, but I say it again. Thank you for taking the time because it is your Saturday and you spent it with me, a little bit of it, and with the audience. And I really appreciate everything that you had to share. I appreciate everything that you're about, everything that you do. And I am plugging UT Southwest because UT Southwest rocks and people there rock and they are somebody and people that we appreciate for doing what you do because you don't have to. You definitely don't have to. You could do something else. You could be gardening, but you choose to stay in this field and be there for us. And it doesn't mean you're in there with us. You could be the one registering us. You could be at the registration office. You could be the person waving at us at UT Southwest when we enter. You could be there's all these different places that people are at UT Southwest, and they do amazing. I personally believe and experience they do amazing things. But you personally have been somebody that when I walk into UT Southwest and I'm going through it again, and I hope I never have to again. But if I ever did, it's refreshing to know what I'm up against and who's on my team. So thank you.
well, I'm as much as I wish that I didn't have to be a part of your life, I'm thankful that I am, and I am better for knowing you and caring for you. And I'm just like I said before, I'm honored every day that I go to work that people choose us and that I have the honor of meeting the strongest, most amazing patients that if I didn't do this, I would never have the honor to meet them. So thank
Mm,
you.
well, de nada. Afwan. I can say you're welcome in a couple of languages. Bitteschön. You're welcome. And thank you for your laughter. And y'all, I did tell her this. I continue to believe this. You are just so funny. And you're just a good energy and a good vibe. And outside of this world I'm in part of, and I will always be a part of it to a degree, I'm very grateful to know you because you always make me laugh. And even if I see you for 1 second, I'm smiling. And please don't let your head get so big that you can't get out of this podcast episode without some help. Because your head's so big now. But no, truthfully, thank you, thank you, thank you. Merci beaucoup. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. and you never know, in the future, I might have you back just for some other, conversation, that you would wanna bring up or talk about more, 'cause you would be a welcome guest anytime.
Well, thank you, and I'm happy to talk anytime.
Okay, well, you keep doing you, girlfriend, and, until next time, this has been Teal Time with Hope. I am Hope, and thank you, Kelly Logan, for your time and all that you do. Again,
Thanks, Hope.
bye-bye.
Bye.